Welcome to Agency Elevated Podcast. This is John and Jeanette Lucero, your hosts for this podcast, where we educate and inform the masses on everything life insurance. If you've been looking for a place to get your education and become better informed about everything life insurance, you are at the right place. As well, we are building a massive team of licensed insurance agents to build the fastest growing life insurance agency in the nation. If you've been looking for a team to join, you are at the right place. Now sit back and enjoy today's episode. Welcome back to the Agency Elevated Podcast. This is John Lucero along with Jeanette Lucero, back with you with another episode. Thank you guys for being back with us today. This is actually going to be part one of a two-part series. And what we're going to actually walk you through is an actual life insurance sales appointment, and really to help you understand what a sales appointment should be like. I hear all the time, why shouldn't I just buy my insurance online? Why shouldn't I go directly to a 1-800 number or a website? And really to understand the value of having an agent and the questions that we're going to go through. So today in our podcast, Jeanette and I are going to actually role play as if it was a scenario of purchasing life insurance. She's going to actually be my client today, and I'm going to walk through as an agent.
And first of all, I want to just say, let's celebrate. This is episode number 2, and we're calling this season 2, by the way, for some of you guys who are maybe new to Agency Elevated Podcast, because the first, how many podcasts did you have before this on Agency Elevated? Like 40 or something like that? I
think there was 35 or 40.
Yeah, there was a lot of podcasts that we had on Agency Elevated Podcast that John had been doing on his own for a really long time. And just with the shift of our lives into really diving into life insurance and financial services now with Agency Elevated, a lot of the stuff that was on the podcast before has been archived. So we're kind of considering this season 2, even though you guys are going to see that this is technically only 2 episodes on here, but I just want to mention that. So I want to celebrate it just because this feels like a really big deal. And then also I want to mention that coming into this episode, John and I had talked about, okay, I'm going to do my very best to really channel being a client, even though I'm his wife and I've been around this industry for a long time. And he gave me some notes to kind of help prompt me. And at the last minute, I decided to trash those notes and come up with my own scenario on who I am as an individual, as a client. So I'm just going to pop this on him. And I think it's going to be really good, even though it is funny. And it was funny that I actually did that. I ripped the paper, I crumbled the paper up in front of him. I'm like, I'm going to just be what I want to be. It's funny. I wanted to do that in honor of bringing forth as real of a scenario as possible for our audience members. So let's get started.
Okay. No, so I think as we get ready to go into the podcast, look at it from kind of 2 lenses. Well, I think our audience is not only people that are looking for life insurance or working through that or have questions. And as we've said before, our main goal is here to help educate and really educate the masses around this. But on top of that, for my agents and people that are part of my team or looking to join my team, this will give them a good scenario to see what an actual agent presentation could or should look like based on our experience. So with that said, we're going to kind of jump into this role play. I think it's actually pretty exciting that she threw up the notes. I didn't like it at first, but I think it's good because it'll give a better scenario.
If you're on video right now, if you guys are on Spotify on Landscape, you'll be able to see the video of our studio. Here's the paper. It actually did happen. So, okay.
Well, I'm going to be actually taking notes. That's just like I would do in a normal presentation as I go through this. So as we start off today, first off, I'll say thank you, Jeanette, for taking the time to meet with me today and to spend some time with this conversation. It's actually a tough conversation for most people to talk about life insurance, to talk about your financial services or whatever needs you have. But really, I want to kind of start with the main question what was the biggest reason that you chose to take this appointment today? And what was one of your biggest concerns?
I think the reason I took this appointment is really because you reached out. I just don't think I would have taken this appointment otherwise. It's been on my mind, but it's just been it's something I've put off so many times. So I think it was really just you reaching out that caused me to take the actual appointment.
Okay. Well, and that's not abnormal. I hear that a lot from people that I reach out to. They're not really sure what they're coming into. But along those lines, as you start thinking about, your husband or your partner or your kids, and it's always a tough conversation. And that's why I tell people that you can't just go online and get really these questions answered. But what are some of the things when it comes to thinking about if you lost your partner or you lost one of your kids, those type of concerns that keep you up at night or really have you worried or stressed?
What was the question?
Along the lines of thinking about if you were to lose a loved one, maybe it's your husband, maybe it's one of your kids, maybe it's that your own life. What are some of the things that worry you if that was to happen, and the type of things that keep you up at night or stresses?
I think the first thing that I think about is my house, just because if something happened to my partner, which we are legally married, I think I would be worried about the house first, just because I'm thinking, my kids needed stability still if there was no longer, my wife in the house. Yes. I think my house. This is kind of hard, actually. I want to stick to my scenario and I want to, but I'm kind of cracking up looking at you right now, John, but we're going to keep going. Okay. Yeah. I would say definitely the house. The house would be my number one concern. Just because my partner helps pay for that as well.
Okay. So everybody's situation is different. And that's why I asked that question, because some people say it's not even one of their concerns. It's maybe their income or whatever it is. So everybody's situation is different. But what I heard from you is you said for you, outside of the emotional and the pain that you feel when you lose somebody, your biggest concern is your house, because that's kind of a place of peace and safety for you, right?
Yeah, that's the stability that I would be able to bring to our children still if my wife was not with us anymore.
Okay, that's fair. So knowing that, so you told me your home is your most important concern for you. So do you own just one home? Do you have multiple homes? Do you just have the one home?
We just have one home.
Okay. And on that home, do you know how much you actually still owe on that home today, and for how much longer you have to pay on that mortgage?
We still owe about $380,000 on this home.
Okay. And do you know approximately how many more years you have left to pay on that mortgage?
We just bought it about 3 years ago, and I think we did a 30-year loan. So I'm going to guess and just say 27 years are left.
Okay. So about $380,000 mortgage, 27 years left. And you told me that was one of your biggest concerns if you were to lose your partner, to have the home.
Yeah.
Now, and ideally what I'd love to do when I have these type of meetings is I'd love to have the partner here with you. I know your partner wasn't able to join us today. And so you're gonna have to kind of speak on behalf of her half, being that she's not here today. If I asked her the same questions, do you think she would have the same concerns about the home in the event that?
No. No, because I'm the breadwinner. Yeah, definitely. I make more than she does. So she would definitely be worried about the income side of it, just because she relies more on, our whole family relies a little bit more on my income.
Okay. So that's important to understand. So in the event, you said if something was to happen to your partner, the home is most important to you. And you think for your partner, if something was to happen to you, she's going to be most concerned about the income.
Yep.
Well, on top of that, even with the income, there's still going to be...
She's also money hungry, so she would be worried about that.
Okay. Well, also with that, I mean, the income is always important, but there's also going to be that mortgage still to pay off. So the question that I ask for people when I talk to them is that if something was to happen, the one thing that we talk about with life insurance, and people don't like to talk about it is inevitable, that we are all going to go away someday. The reality is we just don't know when it is. So when I sit with somebody, I say, let's say it's worst case scenario, and tomorrow's the day you don't get to come home. That's your last day. Would you want for that mortgage to be paid off for your partner if it was you? And we can still talk about the income, and vice versa. If something happens to her that hey, at least I don't have to worry about the home. I can stay in the home and it's paid off.
So what was the question?
Worst case scenario, assuming tomorrow is the day that you either lose your partner or she loses you. Would it be a relief to you to say, okay, at least I know the home is paid off. We can stay in this home.
Who passed away? Me or my partner? What was
either way?
One? Okay.
And let's say it's you first.
Okay.
If you were to pass away, would it give you peace to know for your partner that the home is paid off? She can stay in the home, and we'll address the income because I know it was important as well for her. But is that important?
Yeah, I mean, I think the home would be more important, even though initially she might be worried about the income, but the home would actually be more important because I know she'd probably want the same thing for our children, which is the stability of the house.
Okay.
And the income, my income is what mostly pays for our mortgage payment anyways. So it would be kind of killing two birds with one stone.
Okay.
To worry about the house.
Okay.
Yeah. So I would say that house would be.
Okay. So definitely we're going to talk about what we can do to help solutions with the house. But the income is really important. And so a lot of times, again, this is where you can't, unless you're talking to somebody that asks these tough kind of questions, you can't get an answer. And so the question is, you said that you're the breadwinner. And for me to help you actually have a true analysis of what you really need, what is your current annual income for yourself right now?
Currently I'm making $243 a year.
Okay. And is that pretty much stable? Is it bonuses, anything that comes onto that you count on?
I just got a really big promotion. So this is only about maybe 4 months that I've been making that. Previous to that, I was only like 180.
Okay. And then for your partner, and I'm sorry, what was your partner's name again?
Joanna.
Okay. And Joanna?
Yeah, Jeanette and Joanna.
Okay. And Joanna's, and what is Joanna's income?
She makes 113 right now a year, around that, 113, 115.
Okay, great. So, and I know you mentioned that in of course with what you told me here that you are the breadwinner.
Mm-hmm.
So we've talked a little bit about the home. And oftentimes people say, don't think about what would happen in the process that you lose your loved one. What does that grieving look like? What is how much time do you need to actually get more? I mean, I know for me, if I lost my wife, I'm not going back to work tomorrow. Who knows when I'm going back to work? I need to be there for my kids. I'm going to need there for myself to grieve. But thinking about that, and again, not everybody knows this, but let's just talk about you first.
Mm-hmm.
Today happens to be the day that is your final day. And for Joanna, she no longer has your income.
Mm-hmm.
How long do you think she would want to have your income coming in to give her time to adjust?
Oh, a while. I mean, more than a year. Yeah, she would need at least 1 year. And maybe even more than that because our kids are little. I mean, they're 2 and 4. So I would say, 3 years, okay, realistically, just because our youngest going into kindergarten would give her a chance to really spend time with him. So I would say 3 years for the income.
Okay. And now, again, I know Joanna couldn't be with us today. And even though you may be the breadwinner, I'm sure that there's parts of her income that you depend on.
Mm-hmm.
And in the event that something was to happen to her and she's no longer here,
mm-hmm,
and that income that she normally brings in and you have to adjust to help out with the kids, whatever that might look like, how long would you want her income to continue to come in to help you balance back out?
Just because I would still have to continue to stay in work, probably a year, okay, probably only 1 year. Because we could survive off of just my income if I stayed at work.
Okay. Well, next thing I want to talk about, and you mentioned that you have 2 kids, mm-hmm, and they're 2 and 4 years old. Boys or girls?
Our youngest is a boy and our oldest is a girl.
Okay. Well, congratulations. And so, when I talk to people about this, a lot of people, their concern is what happens to if both our partners are gone. And so a lot of part of what I do in my planning, that's not something we'll talk about today, is talking about having a will, talking about having a trust, because a lot of people don't think about if something was to happen to you and Joanna together, how do you have plans, not only financially with life insurance for the kids, but who's going to help take care of them, do those things. So that'll be another part of our conversation we'll have at some point, but I really just want to kind of start that. So you start thinking about that as a process. But with your kids, is education important to you? Do you see, I know that they're 2 or 4, but have you started to think down the future, is college education something that you want for them? Is that something you feel like you want to financially support? Is that a concern for you?
I wouldn't say it's a concern at this point. They're so little, I haven't even really thought that far into it, but I would like them to consider college. I would say no, to be honest. It doesn't have like a really big emphasis in our family to go to college.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is there something else that maybe, again, I always use this scenario because we don't know when the time is. If today happens to be that day, mm-hmm, maybe it's a car accident, whatever it is, and that's just is the day that you're being called. Is there different things that you aspire for your kids to have in their life that your finances today would help provide that when you're not here couldn't provide? Maybe it's not education for you, but maybe it's some things you wanted to do.
You mean like if I passed away, would I want to leave something for them?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I would love to be able to leave something for them. I think about when they turn 18, there's a lot of decisions that they're going to have to make. So I would love to leave, just some money. Like, I don't even know how that, how that works, but just let's say $100,000 that they start to inherit at 18 years old each, something like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So about 100,000 for each of them.
Yeah.
And you'd like them to have it. So again, if we're thinking about it, for your son, that's in about 16 years. For your daughter, that's in about 14 years. Yep. Okay. Well, again, these are important questions that people don't typically ask. And again, it's always thinking about, nobody likes to talk about worst case scenario, but how often do we hear about people that actually this was their day, right? The car accidents we see on the news, heart attacks that we hear about. And so it's important to always have a plan for this.
Yeah, our neighbors just lost, the wife just passed away. So I'm seeing this does happen. Okay. Yeah.
So one last area that I want to cover, and then from there, I'll actually kind of be able to start figuring out some ideas for you on where we have to go from here. But outside of your mortgage, and we've talked about that, we've talked about your concerns there. What other kind of outstanding debts do you have that would be a concern for you, for either you or Joanna? Maybe it's car loans, maybe you have student loans, maybe there's business loans, credit cards. What comes to mind in those areas for you?
Well, the credit card would be something I'm thinking about. We have $14,000 in credit card currently. And then we both owe on our cars. She just got a brand new car, a minivan. And we paid $36,000 for that. So we have a loan on that one. And then my car I've had for a while. I think I owe, $12,000, I think is what I still have left on my car payment.
Okay. Any other things you're thinking about? Medical bills, student loans?
No, none of those.
Okay. So what I typically like to do, Jeanette, once I get into this part of the process is really from what you've told me. Again, none of these numbers that I'm going to give you today were my numbers. This is all the things that you told me were important to you. So from the top, you told me you had a $380,000 mortgage that you were concerned about. So that's $380,000 there. You also mentioned that you'd like to have, for Joanna to have at least 3 years of your income at about $243,000. That's roughly $750,000 that you'd want set aside for her. And then for Joanna, you said you'd like to have her income for about $113,000, at least for 1 year. And then you'd like to have $200,000 set aside for the kids.
Right.
And probably, let's just say the longest is going to be 16 years from now. And from my math, you roughly have about $62,000.
Which $100,000 is not very much in 14 years, is it? I mean, is that something you would advise I raise? I mean, what would you suggest?
Well, so one of the things I always gauge in off of is if you looked at just education, for example, let's just say that your kids do decide that they want to go to college when they're 18. Today, the average college cost is about $50,000 a year. So if you left $100,000 in today's economy, that would only get them through about 2 years of college.
Okay.
That's just a good scenario to tell you what the dollar's worth today.
Okay. So let's say, well, I mean, how do I gauge that 18 years from now, or, 16 to 14 years from now? How do I gauge that? Do I go off of today's numbers and just say, let's say 200,000 each at 50,000 a year for college?
Yeah, so
like 300 each?
Typically what I would do is I take some kind of level of inflation, and usually inflation is about 8% every single year over year. So you're going to probably double the amount 12 years from now.
Okay.
So that's what cost will be like.
Leaving them 500,000 a piece?
That would probably be
okay, let's see about that.
Okay. So from what you've told me today, we're looking at, and again, this is why doing a needs analysis is so important. We're at about 1,500,000 or 1,050,000 to cover the income and the mortgage.
So a policy that's valued at $1 million.
And that's just to say that's going to take care of the income, the mortgage portion of it. For your kids, you said let's do 500,000 there. And then you've got about $62,000 in outstanding debt. So based on what you're telling me today, just a rough estimate, and I'll get accurate numbers for you. We have a financial need for you, Jeanette, of about $1.6 million.
Okay.
What that means for you is that in the event something happens to you, the mortgage gets paid off for Joanna. She's got 3 years of your income to keep everything stabilized. There's $500,000 to set aside for the kids for whatever we need there. And then all of your debts are done. So basically you leave Joanna in a place where she has no mortgage. She's got your income coming in and all the debts are taken care of.
Yeah.
Is that something that feels about right for you? Okay.
Yeah. I mean, that sounds great. I'm just more wondering, if that were to really happen, how my questions are further than right now. What does it look like when they deliver the money, this kind of thing? Are there things that we have to go through? So those are the questions that I really have.
Okay, absolutely. And so really when I'll come back with some solutions, that's all the things we're going to go through.
Okay.
To make you understand, exactly how the process works. Now for Joanna, we don't need as much income for her. So hers is actually going to be closer to about $950,000. in the event something happens to her, that means you still get the house paid off. You have a year of her income and the kids still have something set aside.
Okay.
And again, if you're still here, that means, hey, you still can generate
and
income.
And that 900 is still with her leaving to the same 500,000 for our children.
Yep.
Okay.
Okay. So part of what my job is when we sit down is to really help you figure out, these are your numbers. Again, this is nothing I told you. You gave me all these answers and figure out what your need is.
Right.
Now, the next part, and as we come back into the next time we'll have a meeting, is to provide you some solutions. Now, what I have to do to be your advisor and to help you in this process is to figure out, we know what the need is now. What do you feel comfortable in your budget so we can help put a plan closest to that budget? What's a monthly amount that you and Joanna could feel comfortable spending in a program like this to meet all of this need or as much of this need as we possibly can?
That's your question right now, real question. Well, I mean, what do people normally pay? I really don't even know. I mean, this is important to us, obviously, and just receiving a pay raise, I do want to make sure I can put this in my budget because it's not part of my, my work does not supply this at all. I mean, like, is this like a car payment, a house payment? I have no idea. Okay. I have no idea.
Well, and again, not to worry. That's most people have never even thought about this or been actually addressed about this.
Yeah. Is this like $50 a month or is this like $500 a month? I really don't know, but it is important to me.
Okay. So when I go through this process, again, I will put together some solutions for you. What's most important for me, I can provide you as many solutions. We can find an answer for you. But if it's not something that fits your budget and it doesn't stay in force, then I did no service for you. And so what's important for me is to figure out at least a starting point. I also will tell you, and with all of my clients, this will not be the only time that you'll ever purchase this or you'll go through this process. Your scenario will change, your life will change. We can always make modifications. But we also want to take advantage of your age today. You're younger today than you will be tomorrow. And we also want to take a look at your health. And you're probably going to be healthier now as you get older. So that's what we look at. And so, I have to have a starting point. So, give me a range. Maybe it's...
Well, I think it would be way out of our comfort zone if it was like $500 a month.
Okay.
And I can't imagine it's going to be less than 200.
Okay.
Does that...
So let's just start from here. We're going to say we'll have a range somewhere between 200. We know your top end is 500. That would make you a little bit uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Okay. And so
that would be hard for us to afford right now.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what I will do is, based on what you've told me today, I'm going to go out and find some different solutions to either meet all of this need for you or as much of this need as we possibly can within your budget. And I'm going to get as close to your budget as we possibly can.
Okay.
While I'm doing that, is there any other questions you have while I go back and trying to find some solutions and put this budget together for you?
I mean, I'm more wondering, how long does this take? Because even this conversation's got me a little bit uneasy. How long does it take to put this into place? Like until we know for sure that we have this coverage? Yeah,
absolutely. So the next step, I will have you an answer no later than today or tomorrow. I will go back and I'll put this together for you. I'd like to schedule a follow-up meeting with you. Ideally, if we can do either in person or tomorrow. And I would like to have Joanna here if possible to go through scenarios. We can do that as early as tomorrow. And
well, Joanna, I would love to be able to do it tomorrow, but Joanna is going to be in her office and I have to be at home tomorrow. So can we do this virtually?
Absolutely.
Okay.
We can meet virtually. We can do
okay, that helps out. Then we could definitely meet tomorrow if it's virtual.
Yeah.
And what about the evenings?
Yeah, I'm available whatever time you need me to work with you. We'll go through this. I'll show you my solutions, show you what the budget is. If at that point you all agree and it's something we could put together, we'll take applications at that point. You actually, if you provide first payment with that, you can have temporary coverage. And depending on if they need medicals and like that, we can get these policies issued usually within less than a couple of weeks, if not sooner.
What is a medical?
So depending on what your medical history is, we're going to look at some of your prescriptions, doctor visits, things of that nature. You may have to go through either giving a blood sample or a urine sample.
Oh, wow.
And go through that. That is all part of the process. You don't pay for that. You have access to all those records. That's something that our company provides for you.
Okay.
Okay. But those are great questions. So from here, what I'll do is I'm going to actually go out and provide some solutions for you. The next time we get together, we'll go through those solutions together and see if they make sense to you. And then from there, we'll move forward.
Okay. All right. That sounds good. Yeah. I would like Joanna to be here next time for sure. So yeah, virtually would be great.
Okay. Thank you. I appreciate you taking time to meet with me today.
Okay. Thanks, John. It was nice talking with you. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Bye, John.
So, as awkward as that is to go through and actually
you don't even know how hard it was not to just throw you I wanted to throw this scenario so all over the place, but I knew that wouldn't be very honorable.
But at the same time, it's okay that she would have, because I wanted to be realistic.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of what we wanted to do. And so this is part one of this. This is just literally how I go through a process in an appointment with anybody that I meet with. And so, yes, there's some tools that I use in here, but it's really just a dialogue to figure out what her needs were and to get her to give me her numbers. Because when the client gives you their numbers, and if you're listening to this and you've never done this before, it's probably making you think about, I've never had anybody ask me these type of questions. And so often people just throw out a number. I just recently met with a couple of clients that were family members, and I asked them, what do they need? And they just threw out a number. And then we did this, and their numbers were significantly higher, and they understood why.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why we go through this. So, But we'll come back with part 2, where we'll actually go through the solutions, some different scenarios for her, and kind of work through that process. So I'll turn over to you if there's anything, your feedback on what this process was like.
No, I think the next one will answer a lot of the questions that I was already having today. And, stuff around like, how do you sign it? And like I said, how long does it take before it's actually in place and stuff like that. So no, I think the questions I have will get answered the next episode on part 2 of this. So.
Well, again, thank you guys for being here. If this is something that sparked some interest in you, you know how to reach us. All of our information is down in the notes if you have any questions. Otherwise, we look forward to you coming back into part 2 to see how we finish up this process. And for those of you that are looking for this stuff, this is a great way to understand what you should be asking in the process so that you're getting exactly what your needs
what to anticipate a little bit. Yeah, it's really helpful. All right. We'll see you guys next episode.